See you here. Let's go now. A little life out here. Let's have a little life out here.
What it do, Packer Nation? Welcome to another episode of Ahead of the Pack. I'm Camille Davis, joined by Dan Kotnick and Monty Moore. Gentlemen, Packers are 1-0. How are you feeling this week heading into a Thursday night football game against the Commanders? But 1-0, not a lot of time to really celebrate that Lions victory here with the short week. But how are you feeling, Dan? I know you were at Lambeau for that Lions game too.
I just wrapped up Lombardi's Bar a little bit ago, and I mentioned on there it felt like a spiritual kind of event being there. I've never seen Lambeau like that before. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but yeah, I'm still on like a high.
I love that.
Yeah, obviously it was great, right? And like you said, Camille, like we only get to revel in it for a couple days because as you guys are listening, there's a game tonight. So
So let's talk about that game here for our opening drive, kicking off what we believe are the biggest storylines heading into this week 2 matchup against the Washington Commanders at Lambeau Field. The Packers will be wearing the all-white uniforms. I did see that for this game, so should be an interesting look. I personally like the white jerseys, but that's besides the point. The point that we're trying to get to here in the opening drive is, what do you think the biggest storylines are heading into this game? So, Monty, why don't we start with you? What do you believe is the biggest storyline heading into this week 2 matchup against the Commanders?
well, unfortunately, we're one game in and it's injuries.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
not only because obviously some guys missed that opening game against Detroit, so are they going to be ready 4 days later? But then you had two offensive line injuries in that game with Tom and Aaron Banks. And what I didn't see was so Aaron, I didn't see this until today. Aaron Banks has two injuries.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the ankle and he's got the groin. So again, offensive line depth is what they preach. So there's a very good chance we see that tested pretty early. But yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be looking at the hardest.
Yeah, and that makes sense because it's a big thing to point to, especially when you're looking at two starting offensive linemen possibly missing the game here for you. So that's a big one. And two, with it being a short week, it's not like these guys have a lot of time to recover. But one thing I did see that I thought was interesting is that this Thursday night football matchup between the Packers and the Commanders, we have the youngest team in the NFL with the Packers going against the oldest team in the NFL with the Commanders here, which I think before I really looked into it because of Jaden Daniels, I was like, man, a younger team, but he's really just a young player surrounded by a bunch of vets around him as well.
Mhm.
So we know younger bodies do tend to recover a little bit faster than older bodies do. But if you look at the injury report between these two teams, like the Commanders had just two guys on their injury report listed as questionable. Meanwhile, the Packers had 5 questionable, 2 out,
Two
7
out.
guys who were removed off the injury report. So, like, the Packers might be the younger team, but the injuries are starting to pile up a little bit for them early on in this season.
Well, and a good point about the, recovering faster and all that. That becomes more of an advantage like later in the year, right? Like if we're at week 12, 13, when these older guys have played a lot of games already, that stuff probably catches up more than it does, week 2. You're still on adrenaline from that. But this same thing actually happened last year when the Packers played the Dolphins. The Dolphins were the oldest team in the league last year, and obviously the Packers are the youngest. It's been what, 3 years now in a
Yep.
row, and it's crazy. The youngest team, full of a bunch of guys that have 2 full seasons or 2 or 3 full seasons worth of starts.
Yeah, I think the thing too to keep in mind is like you mentioned being younger helps, but also being at home
Yeah.
helps a lot. You don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to do anything. Any of those guys that got hurt on Sunday literally rolled out of bed on Monday, stopped at Quick Trip, and they pulled the Monty Moore injury card. They stopped at Quick Trip on the way in to get treatment, and then and then got taken care of. The rest of the day, and I think what it will kind of be something to keep an eye on is in game.
Yeah.
The injury list looks like really bad right now, but there's those hidden injuries, those things that you don't get to treat with that extra day of travel that you missed out on when you're on a short week like this, where maybe we see more injuries or things crop up for the Commanders on Thursday. Maybe they do for the Packers. So yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. But I think also too, even with the injuries to the offensive line, like you mentioned, with the depth, kudos to Brian Gutekunst and everybody that
Yeah.
went out and made the moves like Kennard.
Yeah.
You immediately don't feel as bad about these injuries, having Kennard slide into one of those spots and Jordan Morgan taking the steps that he did in training camp. So yeah, you're worried about losing 2 offensive starters on the line, but the front office is just amazing at their job and you don't feel as bad about it.
Yeah, and for all the, talk about, Jordan Morgan, does he play guard or tackle? And he's your first round pick from last year, so why isn't he starting now by year 2? Again, like we said this, across so many times across us doing packet day together. It's not likely that the line's going to play all 17 games in the same configuration. Like guys
Right.
get hurt. And Banks, unfortunately, like, he kind of was hurt in camp and now he got hurt in this week 1 game. But yeah, now there you go. You've got your first round pick ready to plug in at left guard if Banks doesn't play. And like Dan said, like Kennard, he came in for Zach Tomlin, was really, really good. Very admirable that the guy you signed right at the end of training camp is your first guy off the bench to replace, your all pro level right tackle. So this is what they preach. They plug and play. And obviously there's sometimes a talent drop off, but they still feel good about the guys you put out there. It's not like we're, rolling out Don Barclay again for those, for that era.
But thank God we're not. But I mean, with that too, like it's a Commanders defense that last year, they were 30th against the run. They talked about wanting to get bigger, more physical in the offseason. You saw that they added those additions to their line to get bigger. They had a great game against the Giants with a lot of pressure, good run defense. So it will be a test for this Green Bay Packers offensive line, especially being a couple guys down. Like it's going to be very, very important for Kennard or Morgan, or even if it's Belton coming into the game, like whoever it is, like they're going to have to be ready. Like this is the Commanders team that has something to prove, coming off of last year's NFC Championship game, which for Washington, they ain't been there since 91. So we know this is a franchise that's been starved for this type of success, and they're trying to build off of it. So they're going to be hungry coming after that Packers offense. So hopefully whoever's in that offensive line is going to be ready. But Dan, you kind of teased what your biggest storyline was heading into this game with the spiritual experience that you had at Lambeau. Please tell us more about that, because I want to feel enlightened myself.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't around. I wasn't old enough for the Reggie White era to like truly experience it, but I've heard the elders, talk about
See, I
what it
remember watching
what
Reggie
it was
White
like.
play as a kid, so I'm feeling a little
And
uncomfortable here.
it's the it was the whole thing about like hearing the stories of like the crowd chanting for Reggie and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and it's like, who's the last defensive player that made Lambeau stand up and have that kind of juice?
It probably was Charles Woodson, right?
Right. Charles
Yeah.
But not right when he got there, because
Yeah.
not right
Yeah.
when he got there. And was there ever a time where you were like, I'm so jazzed that Charles Woodson's coming on this field, like he's a game tilter? Like Charles Woodson is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mhm.
But like there's something about having a guy like a Reggie White or a Micah Parsons that's at the line of scrimmage and is actively destroying the play or trying to destroy the play every single time. Like it's the same thing as like it's the quarterback of the defense, right? When you're
Yeah.
watching offense, the quarterback basically makes or breaks the play. On the defensive side, if you have a guy like that, he can make or break that play every single
Mhm.
time
Yeah,
if
he
he
can wreck the
wants to.
game.
Yeah. And being there at Lambeau, nobody sat down in the fourth quarter,
Love that.
basically. I mean, it was the first time in a long time I've just been able to like stand and cheer on second and first down. And I'm just hoping that this kind of like I'm a believer now. And I think that this is going to carry this team where every time at home, I really hope that this has shown people when you go to a game at Lambeau, and not just when Micah Parsons is there, but at least for this season right now, when Micah Parsons is on this team, on this field, the Packers gave up 2 first-round picks. You got to give up something to this team and create the juice that flows into this defense and creates the environment that we saw Sunday. You got a chance to do it again Thursday on a gold package game and really make a statement. And then, you've only got after Thursday, you've only got 6 more times to prove
Yeah,
it. So
isn't that crazy? Like they're down 1 home game this year, right? Because of the
right.
lopsided 17 game schedule.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean we're already through 2 home games. And like Dan
Right.
said, there's like only 6 left. Like we haven't even hit October yet. So
Man.
it's really about making the most of these 2. Obviously they did it. They made the most of the first one. But yeah, it's a gold package game, so I can't wait for the gold package discourse. I know it's Camille's favorite.
Oh, I got to hold it down for all the Milwaukee people here with the gold package, especially after what we saw in week 1 with all that Honolulu blue in the
Yeah.
stadium.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with the gold package that week. But then your point actually flows into mine a bit, which is just around like this defense, right? And can this Packers defense stand up to a different type of challenge here against the Commanders? Because what we saw from them against the Lions was impressive on many levels. How they bottled up the run game, how they had Gibbs have a historic day catching the ball, but historic for the amount of yards that also came with it being pretty paltry along the way. It's like, can this defense stand up again to another challenge where you're going to have a running back, a rookie running back at that? Wild Bill, the whole story behind what's his real name, Ja'Cory?
Yeah.
Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt go by Bill. So from here on out, that's just Bill, not Ja'Cory. It's Bill. But he was lighting it up all throughout preseason. First game of the year, he shows out. He averaged 8.2 yards a carry in that opening game against the Giants. You're going to have that running threat. And then you're going to have Daniels as another running threat. And this is a Commanders team that against the Giants had quite a few explosive runs alone. Like they had 8 explosive run plays against the Giants last week. That's
and the Giants
crazy.
have a scary D line.
Yeah,
Like
the D line is good.
They're not rolling out scrubs, so definitely have their work cut out for them. What I think is interesting is going to be to kind of see what Jeff Hafley does, right? Because we've seen in the past that like Quay has generally been the spy. Like we know he's fast enough, we know he's athletic enough, but now like you've got Edrin Cooper too. So I'm really, that chess match to me is going to be so interesting to just see specifically those 2 players, Quay and Cooper, how they're utilized against Jaden Daniels, because that's going to be your chess match. And, we've seen before, like Matt LaFleur kind of has Dan Quinn's number.
Yeah.
The Packers tend to do really, really well against the Dan Quinn defense on offense. But yeah, seeing how they're going to handle Jaden Daniels is, I think, the most interesting part of the game, because you're just facing a polar opposite of the quarterback you faced 4 days ago.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I like hyped up the Lambeau thing on Sunday, like this is a perfect trap game for the Packers. Like everyone wanted to see them take the belt to the Lions on Sunday. Everyone was juiced up to beat the Lions for the first time in 3 years at Lambeau, which is crazy to think about. It's Micah Parsons' first home game. And now you've got this huge energy drop, and you got to turn around 3 days later and play a complete different team. And now you've put the entire NFL on notice that the Packers are not here to play. So now you're getting everybody's best shot.
So are you kind of saying, not that they won't be up for this game, but that like matching that intensity of the opener and all the
Be
things
challenging.
surrounding it is going to be more of a challenge.
It's that, but then it's also kind of going back to Camille's point is that like just because you did it against the Lions once doesn't mean that you're just going to roll into 4 days later
Oh, right.
and do it to everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like you can't just live off of that high from 4 days ago where you beat the, best team in the NFC from a couple years ago, your biggest rival, and just assume you're going to do it against, Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn and all of this. It just sets up as the perfect little trap. And so it's kind of all that same thing of like what Camille is bringing up is like, this is a different challenge for like a couple different reasons. It's a different style of offense, but it's also a different environment that you're walking into versus what you're walking into week 1.
Your point about just the high of coming into that season opener game against the Lions, like I heard after the game, Tucker Kraft mentioned like that was his first time beating the Lions in Lambeau. Like he had never been a part of that. And it was like, what? Like we're at that point now because it's been a few years where these younger players, they've only known the Lions being good that are on this team. So they were charged up coming into this one. And I think that the chip that you can also add on your shoulder going to this game against Washington is that last year against the good teams, the Packers would, not necessarily play up the standards. Like those losses they had, of course, we talk about the 1-5 in division, but you point to Philly and losing those games. Like they were losing against some of the top teams in the NFC, and not saying Washington is that right now, but it's the beginning of a season of a team that just came off of an NFC championship game. So like there are some stakes there of like, this is another good team with a young quarterback. Like we got to make a statement.
Totally.
Yeah. I just think also it's, the fact that you are in prime time, like again, Micah Parsons, he just got here. He's done a snap count. He says he feels like he's ready to go. He ended up playing what, like 30 something snaps?
Yeah, 29, 30.
Like, I feel like maybe, you kind of play him. He'll probably play a little more than that in this one. They even said they're treating these first 4 games as his training camp, right? Or however they worded it. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe this week the onus is a little bit more on the offense, right? Because they came out hot on in the opener, but they hit that kind of like third quarter brick wall where things just kind of were a little bit wonky. Defense did their part Sunday. I think this game it's paramount for the offense to kind of, show their chops, because I'm not saying like you're going to get a shootout in this game, but the Commanders can put up points quickly. Jaden Daniels is a threat to run it from wherever he is on the field. Obviously, they have Terry McLaurin. He's one of the better receivers in the league. Like Debo has always given the Packers problems, even though he's obviously not the same player he was, 4 years ago. But I don't think people are like taking this game lightly. I think the way they won on Sunday, though, kind of makes people feel like, oh, they should be able to handle Washington, right?
Yeah.
Because like they just absolutely handled the Lions, and people were picking the Lions to be the best team in the NFC or whatever it was. So
that's a good point. And I think too, for the offense, you mentioned like it's going to be a weight on them. I think in particular too is getting that run game going. Like Washington was a bad team against the run last year. They had great results in week 1 against the Giants, but the Giants offensive line isn't what the Packers have. Their running back court isn't what the Packers have. So it's like, what can the Packers get out of this? And I forget which one of you just mentioned it, but the Packers having success against Dan Quinn defenses. The last 2 times they played, a big key of that was getting Aaron Jones going. So in this matchup, can you get Josh Jacobs going against this Commanders defense? And if you can control a lot of the game plan that way going forward. But there's a lot more.
I will say, let's temper some of the things we saw from Washington week 1, because the Giants are like in the running for the
Giants
overall pick.
Yeah, the Giants are going to be bad.
The Giants are pretty bad.
They're going to be bad all year. So
great. Hey, they got some good pass rushes over there.
They got a great defensive line.
They have a good D line, and they have an all-world receiver.
Yes.
That's kind of where it stops.
That's about it. So let's turn to the connections portion of the pod here, where Dan highlights some Packer connections, some connections you might not realize are there between the Packers and the Commanders. So, Dan, what did you find for us this week?
Yeah, again, always a big shout out to the dope sheet. Great source of information for a lot of this. A couple that I wanted to highlight, some big names this week. We're not talking about like former equipment manager cousins of uncles this time around. Russ Ball, former Washington director of football administration. Did not actually know that. I think some of the guys that pop up in the front office of the Packers, I just assume they kind of like grew in the
Yeah,
backyard.
I
of
just feel like
Lambeau.
Russ Ball spawned at Lambeau Field
Right.
doing salary cap work.
Like, they just have like a glass case and they just broke it.
Yeah.
I imagine them coming like a Pokeball or something, where it was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, Russ has appeared.
Yeah.
Just turns his hat around, like
Right, just get ready. First outing, turn a hat.
Obviously, bit of a Micah Parsons revenge game. Micah Parsons used to play under Dan Quinn's defense at the Dallas Cowboys. But the biggest one here, Matt LaFleur has ties all across the board here. He used to be the Washington football coach. I don't remember what they were called at the time.
Yeah.
I think
He
they were
was
just
there.
Washington football team.
Were they the football team? It's from
Yeah.
By the
2010 to
way,
2013.
I love that name. I thought
Yeah,
they should
I
have
think
kept the Washington.
I think they
football.
should have kept it. I think the only I was saying this like when they changed it to Commanders. I think the only reason they didn't is because if they kept that, it's an immediate reminder that they used to be called something else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
fair.
they had to get one step further removed from the old name and become something totally new. But yeah, like at first everyone was like Washington football team, that's so generic. And then like after you heard it a bunch of times, you're like, I don't know, I kind of
It's
like
kind of
that.
player.
Right.
I like
Yeah.
it.
It still had the stink of Dan Snyder on it a little bit.
Right. Yeah,
too,
exactly.
So
Yeah. They're trying
Yeah.
to distance themselves completely.
Yeah. But then also Matt LaFleur coached directly underneath Dan Quinn when Dan Quinn was the head coach in Atlanta. He was the quarterback's coach in Atlanta
Yep.
from 2015 to 2016. And that was the infamous Super Bowl year,
Yes.
correct? So
That
Matt
was
LaFleur coaching directly against the Packers in that NFC Championship game.
the
And
Julio
then
Jones on Ladarius Gunter game.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so those are your connections for this week.
All right. Now for some bets. Last week we had some people put bets in the comments too, which I love. So if you guys have any bets that are a little wonky, maybe not your traditional type of bets, a little bit more fun, let us know what you're thinking. Because for myself, with this being a Thursday night game, a primetime game, knowing Al Michaels is also on the call, I'm going to set 2.5 over or under the times that the Lambeau Mystique is mentioned during this prime time nighttime game at that in Lambeau.
Now, are we talking including pregame or just
During the game?
Just during the game.
2.5.
I'm going over. I
Yeah.
don't think you can talk about it enough. That's the reason why. Like
Yeah.
it's arguably the most unique setting in all of sports, or like not even just the NFL. And anytime you get these broadcasters that have been doing it for 50 years, they tend to appreciate that even more, right? Because they're all about story and they're all about tradition. So yeah, I'm gonna go over.
All right. I think I'll go over with that one too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over too. You got to give Kirk Herbstreit a chance to get kind of schmaltzy about something, and he'll set him up enough times.
Exactly.
I will say this about the Mystique, and I think I've said this on Pack a Day before too, but I feel like that Atlanta playoff game when Mike Vick came into town during the playoffs and they beat the Packers, it felt like the Lambeau Mystique was broken a bit to me, and ever since then it hasn't been quite the same. So I would love for this new crop of Packers, this younger team that's coming up, making their own way, to reestablish that. Like, can they make Lambeau again this place where come December, January, you really do not want to play?
I feel
I'm
like
telling you, it's the Micah Parsons experience. Jump on the train.
I do agree with you in a sense that the mystique has changed, but for me, it is that same game. But for me, I think playing in the cold at Lambeau died that day.
Yeah.
Not necessarily playing at Lambeau in general, but they had never lost a playoff game when it was under 32 or whatever it
Mhm.
was. But since then, like, can you name the last time that quote unquote Lambeau weather was an advantage to the Packers?
No,
No.
I can name several times
May,
it actually was a
maybe,
hindrance to the Packers.
yeah, I was gonna say the most recent one, that's cheating, obviously, because the Dolphins came in there on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The Dolphins can't play in the cold anywhere. It doesn't matter that it's Lambeau. So other than that, yeah, it's almost most of the time a deterrent to the way
I
the
mean,
Packers have been playing.
you could argue that the weather cost them that divisional game against the 49ers
Yeah, you
Yeah.
in
definitely could.
Yeah.
2022.
Absolutely.
So young Packers, this Packer team, like let's start building that back up. Let's get to
Yeah.
December, January football here in Lambeau where it's cold and you do not want to come here and play. So my bet's going to be on the number of times, 2.5. They mentioned the Lambeau Mystique. Dan, what do you have for the bet this week?
Yeah, you and I are simpatico on this because I'm sticking with Al Michaels because I love Al Michaels calling football games because he just does not care anymore. And that being said, I think he's got to make at least one like direct shot joke about Jerry Jones. Like Micah Parsons is going to have like a second or third sack, and Al Michaels is going to like directly call Jerry Jones out with some kind of comment or joke at least one time, I think.
I take that over. I take that
I'm
over.
going over, absolutely. The first time he does anything significant in the game, you're getting that. So
Yeah.
that's at least 100%.
Facts. Monty, what you got for us?
All right, mine is going to be a continuation of things that has been way too big a part of these Packers games. Over or under 3 special teams holding calls
On the Packers alone or
on the Packers
period?
alone. On the
Because the
Packers
Commanders had
alone.
like 12 penalties themselves
Yeah.
last week.
Right.
Under. I'm going under 3 special
Okay.
team penalties for the Packers.
I gotta
Dan?
go over. I gotta go over. I have no trust in that. Yeah.
I'm going with my heart, not my head. I'm going under also. Also about those special teams calls, Dan, you were at the game, so you didn't experience this, but 3 times during the game, one of my biggest pet peeve happened where there's a flag and they didn't show it on the broadcast. Like
Didn't see it.
they didn't even allude to
Yeah.
it. They just moved on. Like I hate when they don't show the penalty because I feel like when they don't show it, they're gonna be like, oh, everyone's gonna see that was a crappy call.
Especially on special teams, I feel
Yeah,
like.
Right.
there's plenty of time to show the replay.
Right.
Like,
So much time. If you
Yeah.
want to, like they just chose not to. So, okay. Last piece here for us, gents, and that's predicting the score for the game. We all went 1-0 last week. We all had the Packers over the Lions with different scores here, but this week I'm going Packers again. This week, I think what I saw in week 1 is making me drink this Kool-Aid quicker than I want to. But I mean, it's a long season. I'm trying to be reasonable here, but I think that they can pull this one off against the Commanders with this defense, with the offense here. Again, it's going to be a challenge for them, but I think they're equipped for it. So I'm going to go Packers over Commanders 28-21.
Okay. I'm gonna go. I'm picking the Packers also. I just think, there hasn't been enough time since the last game for the momentum to die down. Every single time Micah Parsons gets asked a question, I feel like his answers get better with every single interview. I think he has another very impactful game. But this week, I think Josh Jacobs actually kind of gets going. The Lions absolutely sold out to stop him. And then we saw in the fourth quarter, he kind of got rolling. But I think he's going to kind of be a heavier focus because I'm assuming that those 2 offensive linemen in Aaron Banks and Zach Tom aren't playing. So they kind of might lean on more quick game and run game in this one. I think I'm going to pick the Packers to score 30 for the first time this season. I'm going to go 31-23 Packers.
Okay. Dan, where you
All
at?
right. I'm gonna continue this like incremental climb upwards on the scoreboard here, because I'm almost literally exponentially increasing these scores here. The score that I had in my mind, I'm going to take the Packers. I think it's a bit more of a shootout. Just because these Thursday night games can get a little wonky. I
That's
think
true.
Jaden, I really do like Jaden Daniels a lot as a quarterback. I have the Packers winning 35-25.
Okay.
Ooh, that would be a fun shootout if that happened. The defense wouldn't be happy, but fans would be happy of the shootout aspect of the game. So
Yeah.
it should be a fun one. Like we said, this was a short week. We didn't get a lot of time to really revel in that week 1 victory against the Lions, but hopefully we have a lot of time coming up to revel in a victory over the Commanders after
win?
tonight's game.
I was gonna say a win, and then you get a mini bye, and then you
Yeah.
get to play Cleveland. Like
So a
you're
third
staring,
bye.
yeah, you're
Second
kind
bye.
of you're kind of staring 3-0 in the face, like without getting ahead of ourselves, obviously. But that's the way to start
Yeah.
your first month of the season. So
Yeah, and we'll talk about it next week. But that Cleveland game, that's all. Those games are always a little like don't fall into that trap of looking
don't
ahead
play
already.
down to your
Yeah.
opponent.
Right.
So it should be fun. So everybody, I hope you enjoy the game. If you want to catch us in other forms, as mentioned before, we are the Monday audio side of the Pack a Day podcast. You can catch all 3 of us over there. I'm also still doing Locked On Bucks Monday through Friday, Technical File podcast every Wednesday. This, it's all running together a bit, but you can also find me on social media at Camille Monet, CAMILLEMONAE. That's Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. Just about anywhere I'm at, it's going to be with that handle.
Yeah, Camille dominates the airwaves, so you find her almost everywhere every day.
I love it.
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. I'm at Ferd Turgeson, FERDTURGESON, and on Fridays after this week, since we're not going to be recording because of the Thursday night game, but I do Last Call Lambeau with Aaron Alice over on Game on Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky, mostly on social media at Dan on the Manos, where you can find me. And then outside of our Monday Pack-A-Day appearance, every Wednesday live on Lombardi's Bar, 9 o'clock Central, or 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central.
And there you have it. As always, y'all, you know what it is. Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go.